Race and sports, two important topics that you can't possibly divorce. New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees has apologized for statements he made during an interview yesterday on Yahoo Sports. He made those comments based on what he said about the American flag. Joining us in a bit is Willie Colon. He is a former New York Jet, and he has taken to Instagram and has been very outspoken about what we've seen in recent days.
We witnessed a modern day lynching with George Floyd. And if the video was never posted, where would we be? Enough is enough. We all watched the country burn this weekend. I've been extremely emotional about it. I'm a new father. And I don't want better just for me, I want better for him. So if you're frustrated about
Willie Colon taking a break from his morning show duties on his own SiriusXM radio Barstool show. Willie, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So yesterday, first of all, most of us have been walking around with heavy hearts in the sports world and beyond. And then to see Drew Brees make that comment, I think there were further hearts being broken. He has since issued an apology. He made a very lengthy apology on his Instagram page. Some are wondering if it came on the heels of the comments of his actual teammate, Malcolm Jenkins. Willie, what is your thought on Drew's apology?
Well, I think we have to all remember that, yes, he has a right to his opinion, but he came off extremely tone deaf. You talk about a country, as I mentioned in the video that you just played, that was on fire this weekend. And when you make the comments he made, it came across to me personally that he's more comfortable with the knee that was on George Floyd's neck rather than the knee that Colin Kaepernick took 2016 to call a halt to police brutality. And it's heartbreaking because, when you're a leader in the locker room, especially like Drew Brees, you have to be aware. You have to have self-awareness. And to rest on his ideals and what he believed it is, it was frustrating to see because it was the protest that Colin Kaepernick took. The protests that are going on right now has nothing to do with the flag. It's about systemic racism. It's about police brutality, and enough is enough.
And it's interesting to hear you talk about Colin Kaepernick because all sports leagues, professional and otherwise, have to deal with social injustice. What do you think the NFL needs to do now moving forward?
Well, to be honest, give Colin Kaepernick his job back. He's a man who put his career on the line, who has done everything to blow the whistle. And he did this right after Philando Castile was murdered and countless others. So I think this is a man who's qualified, who's done his part as far as bearing the shoulders, bearing the racism that's plaguing this country. And I think he deserves his job back. And I think we have to be more aware and continue to build a bridge with the law enforcement in this country and educate each other, too.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the messages that resonates is that let's hope that this doesn't end just because the protests end. Before we end, you are a Bronxite. You have a restaurant
Yes.
on Bruckner Boulevard. You bore witness to some of the peaceful protests at the beginning of the week, some of the not so peaceful protests and looting. Did you do anything differently with your business before the protests and then subsequently afterwards?
Well, we chose to stay open. Bricks and Hops is my beer garden in the Bronx, 65 Brooklyn Boulevard. I was raised in that community. We chose to stay open to be able to feed the protesters and hand out water and sandwiches because we believe that this call to action affects everybody. We have faith that the community will support a black-owned business like mine and others. So we weren't worried about the looting and rioting. What we were worried about is making sure the protesters had enough fuel for the fight, and we've been able to do that. And the community has been extremely respectful of Bricks and Hops and other establishments on the same block that I reside at.
And I think I will speak on behalf of the community, not very often, but I will thank you for doing that, just as a stand-up citizen. Last question. Congratulations, you and your wife just had a baby.
Thank you.
Interesting time to bring a child into the world.
Yes.
What will you tell your son about 2020 and moving forward?
That's a great question. I think 2020 is the year. 2020 is the year of resistance. I think a lot of people realize. I've watched more professional athletes cry because of these protests and because of the video of George Floyd that I've actually seen on the sideline. And that's saying something. I think that video has moved so many people from a humanistic standpoint. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. This is about human rights. And I would tell them that you have a voice. You matter. This is the time. This is a pivotal time in our country where we won't get this back. I think all hands are on deck for this. And I would tell them to continue to educate, motivate, and move forward. And that 2020 was the time that a lot of people came to a screeching halt and said enough is enough. We must educate, vote. I'm challenging everybody out there to learn about their local officials, to learn about policies so that it impacts their community. And I'm challenging everybody to also lend an ear. It's not a time for stats and everything else to play a devil advocate. It's a time for us to listen to each other and grow within. And hopefully we get to a better tomorrow.
Willie Colon, thank you so much for those thoughtful, insightful words. And I hope next time we speak, it is either over a cold one at Bricks and Hops or in the studio.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.